Okay, so today we're talking about parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel lines in the same plane that do not intersect are called parallel lines. Non-vertical parallel lines have the same slope. So of course all vertical lines are parallel. But if you have non-vertical lines like these two green ones here, okay, they would have the exact same slope. Okay, so the slope would be the same. The only difference is where they cross the y-axis. Okay? All right, so you can write an equation for a line parallel to a given line if you know a point on the line and the equation of the given line. First, find the slope of the given line, then substitute the point provided and the slope from the given line into point-slope form. For example, write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through negative 3, 5 and is parallel to y equals 2x minus 4. Well, we know it tells us they're parallel, so if they're parallel, they have the same slope. So the slope is 2 of the new line. It also tells us a point in that line, okay? So we use point-slope form and we plug in what we know. Well, we know y is 5, we know slope is 2, and we know x1 is negative 3. So we would have y minus 5 equals 2 times x plus 3. Then you would distribute, and you would have y minus 5 equals 2x plus 6. Then to get y by itself, I would have to add 5 to both sides, and y equals 2x plus 11. You'll notice they have the same slope. One crosses the y-axis at negative 4, and one crosses the y-axis at 11. Okay? So let's take a look. So let's write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through negative 1, 6, and is parallel to the graph of y equals 2x plus 12. So again, I'm using y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Well, I know y1 is 6, so y minus 6 equals, it's the same slope, so 2 times x minus negative 1. Okay? Or y minus 6 equals 2 times x plus 1. Then I would distribute. Y minus 6 equals 2x plus 2. I then would I would add 6, the opposite operation. And I would end up with y equals 2x. I'm writing faster than, or my brain's going faster than I can write here. Y equals 2x plus 8. Okay? And again, you will notice that they have the same slope of 2, just where they cross the y-axis is different. One's 12 and one's at 8. Okay? All right. Perpendicular lines. Lines that intersect at right angles are called perpendicular lines. The slopes of non-vertical perpendicular lines are opposite reciprocals. That is, if the slope of a line is 4, the slope of the line perpendicular to it is negative 1/4. So it's the opposite reciprocal. So if one's positive, then the reciprocal would be negative. Okay? So for example, we have these green lines on here. Okay? You can see that this one's going in a positive direction. So that slope is going to be positive. This other slope on this perpendicular line is negative. So that's why one's positive, one's negative. And then they are just reciprocals, okay? All right. And we can use the slope to determine whether two lines are perpendicular, okay? Because we can look at two lines. If the slope of the two lines multiplied together gives me negative 1, then that tells me they're perpendicular. For example, 4 times a negative 1/4 would give me negative 1. All right. So determine whether the graphs of y equals 5, x equals 3, and y equals negative 2x plus 1 are parallel or perpendicular, and then explain. First thing we could do is we could easily just graph these, which is what is here on the right side. So we have x equals x equals 3, that's this line. We have y equals 5, that's this line. And we have y equals negative 2x plus 1, which is this diagonal line. So we take a look at these and we say, what do we have? Well, there are no parallel lines, so no parallel lines. So are anything perpendicular. If it's perpendicular, it must be at a right angle. Well, we can take a look at y equals 5 and x equals 3, and they are parallel to the x and y axis, so therefore those two lines would be parallel. So y equals 5, I don't mean parallel, I mean perpendicular. Y equals 5 and x equals 3 are perpendicular lines, okay? So they would form right angles. All right. So you can write an equation of a line perpendicular to a given line if you know a point on the line and the equation of the given line. So for example, I am to write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through negative 4, 6 and is perpendicular to the graph of 2x plus 3y equals 12. Well, the first thing I have to do is to change that line, which is currently in standard form, to the slope-intercept form. Well, I can simply do that by subtract negative 2 from both sides, negative 2x. Then that's going to leave me with 3y equals negative 2x plus 12. Then I divide everything by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that leaves me with a y. Negative 2 divided by 3 would be a negative 2/3 x. And 12 divided by 3 would be 4. So y is negative 2/3 x plus 4. So the slope of the line would be negative 2/3. Okay? So I know what the slope is, negative 2/3. So when I have negative 2/3, to get the slope of the perpendicular line, I do the opposite. That's negative, so the opposite is positive. And then the reciprocal of 2/3 would be 3/2. So that's the slope of the new line, or the perpendicular line. And then I can just plug it into the point slope form. And I have, don't forget, I have my point up here. So I can use that. So the y1 would be 6, the x1 would be negative 4, and the m slope would be 3/2. So I would have y minus 6 equals 3/2 times x plus 4. Then I would add, then before I go any further, I would have to distribute 3/2 times x and 3/2 times 4. And that's going to give me y minus 6 equals 3/2 x plus 6. Now I can add 6 to both sides, and I get y equals 3/2 x plus 12. Okay? And in my final answer, you can, you can see that when I converted the other one, I had y equals negative 2/3 x plus 4. In this one, I have y equals 3/2 x plus 12. So again, if I multiply those two slopes together, I would end up with negative 1. All right, let's take a look at this one. We have to write an equation of slope-intercept form that passes through negative 4, 2 and is perpendicular to the graph 2x minus 3y equals 9. So in order to do this one, I would do 2x minus 3y equals 9. I am going to subtract 2x from both sides. I get negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 9. And then I have to divide everything by negative 3. That's going to leave me with y equals 2/3 x minus 3. Okay? Now, I know my slope of 2/3. So the perpendicular line would be the opposite, so negative 3/2. Okay? So I plug this into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And so that would give me y minus 2 equals negative 3/2 times x minus a negative 4. Okay? And that would be, let's see, y minus 2 equals negative 3/2 x plus 4. I distribute, and that would be y minus 2 equals negative 3/2 x minus 6. And then I would add 2 to both sides, and that's going to give me y equals negative 3/2 x minus 4. And that would be my answer. Okay? All right. Number 10, the triangle ABC has vertices A. So basically, they give us our vertices. We determine whether it's a right triangle. So we're trying to see if it's like this, okay? So we could say something like A, B, C, for example. And they want to know if this is a right angle. If it's a right angle, then these two lines must be perpendicular to each other. So all we have to do is find the slopes. So for example, AB, it would be 4 minus 2. No, it would not. Sorry. It would be 2 minus 4, 1 minus 0. That's going to give me, boy, I can't even read. That would be 2 minus 4. That's going to end up giving me negative 2. Okay? So negative 2. Then BC would be 6 minus 2 over 4 minus 1, which is going to give me 4 over 3. Yep. So this would be 4 over 3. And then lastly, we have AC, which would be 6 minus 4 over 4 minus 0. So that would be 2 over 4 or 1/2. What do we have? Negative 2, and opposite would be positive, reciprocal would be 1/2. So this and this would multiply together to get negative 1. So that tells me that AB is perpendicular to AC. So yes, it is a right angle. Okay? And then lastly, we have this right here that just basically tells you parallel lines, if they have the same slope, and perpendicular lines if the slope is negative 1. If you multiply them together, you get negative 1. All right, if you got any questions, let me know.